I'm Beck and welcome to the intimidating TBR tag, which basically means these are the books on my to be read pile that I am scared about, and I'll be answering a couple of questions and showing you examples. So without further ado, let's get into the questions, which I will also list below. Question 1 is, what book have you been unable to finish? And up until very recently, it was The Song Rising by Samantha Shannon, and I figured out that the writing style and the tone just wasn't working for me, even though I really wanted to love this. I've read the series before, and this is the newly published editions, so it's not like the first and the second edition are anywhere super different, so there's no real reason that I'm not connecting to this. I think just the first time through was more exciting for me, and I'm just struggling to enjoy this one as much as before. And so even though it took me so long to read, I read 160 pages and then decided I'm going to put it down. And since doing that, my reading has kicked back up again. So I think DNFing it was the right decision. Question 2 is, what book have you yet to read because you just haven't had the time? And I'm cringing already at my answer to this question because, I've got two answers, but the first one is the one that is more embarrassing, and that is the Dresden Files. This is the 15th book, and I read through and adored this series like 2 or 3 years ago. I generally listen to the audiobooks, and every time I finish an audiobook, I go out and buy the physical copy for my shelf. So I got up to this book, well, technically I'm up to Peace Talks, which is book 16. When I was reading through this series, I was having such a great time. I was loving the characters. I was having such an emotive response to each book. I was filming a review per book, and I feel terrible that those reviews have just now stopped and they have been stagnant for so long, because for some reason I just can't get back into the series. And I think the intimidating thing about this is it's such a long series. I already put in the time to do it and get to the point that I was before, and now I need to get back to that point again, because if I just start the series back up again, I'm going to miss so many minute details. So now I need to reread them, or re-listen to them on audiobook rather, and I'm excited to get back into these again. I'll probably start with book 3 because I read books 1 and 2 in the last year, and I did a spoiler chat with Dave about each book because he's read the series as well, but only up to the point that I have. I think partly I also stopped because I wanted him to read the books ahead of me, and he goes in and out of reading phases, so I'll just shift the blame onto him, shall I? In all seriousness though, I do intend to pick these up again very shortly. I'm hoping that very shortly means 2025, because I'm going to need audiobooks to get through, and what way to do it than to read about a wizard detective. The other book that I'm intimidated by, and therefore I just haven't had the time for it, is The First Binding, and this is an epic fantasy series that's 800 pages long. And while there are other books on my reading radar that are the same length as this, for example, Robin Hobb's books, I feel like because I've read Robin Hobb before, it's a guaranteed 5 stars. So that is less intimidating in terms of the enjoyment and the content, still intimidating with the time spent and the amount of pages, but with this it's a complete unknown. I have no idea whether I'm going to like it. I don't actually really know what it's about. It says, all legends are born of truths and just as much lies. These are mine. Judge me for what you will, but you will hear my story first. And so I think in the same sense that Robin Hobb's books are written as a narrative almost by fits, a bit reflective, this is kind of similar, so it's got that reflective nature to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the narrative styles differ, and I'm looking forward to what this story is actually about, because Truth and Lies, that sounds really epic. I'm looking forward to it, I'm just scared. I'm sure when I film my March to be read video and I use my random number generator to pick a book from my to be read pile, it's probably going to pick that one now that I've gone and told you how scared I am of it, so we'll just see what happens in my March TBR. Question 3 is, what book have you yet to read because it is a sequel? And I could really quickly tell you the third book in the Farseer trilogy. Like I said in my previous answer, this one is super long, so I just haven't had the time or investment for it. And because it's in a series, I've already put some time and work into the first 2 books, so I feel like I need to continue this. I've just been thinking about it for the past couple of weeks and kind of psyching myself up, so it's going to happen. The other one that I want to answer is more Robin Hobb. So initially I thought, I'll just read the Farseer trilogy because that's 3 books. And I then thought, but I won't want to stop there. And so the Live Ship Traders is a separate series in the same world following different characters. And it's set on a pirate ship that they are live. So they've got figureheads that can talk to the crew. And there is a beautiful magic system involved in that. And again, also awesome characters and depth and development. And I wanted to reread all of those as well. And because it's technically a sequel series to the Farseer series as well, I'm like, I'm going to count it for this question because I haven't had time for it because it's a sequel, but I also haven't made time because they are also so long. I think they're 700 pages, 800 pages each. It's a lot of time to spend on a book, but it's a worthwhile time because I remember loving them and I haven't read them in such a long time. So I'll basically have forgotten everything, so it is worth a reread right now. Question 4 is, what book have you yet to read because it is brand new? And I am incredibly salty that I live in Australia in regards to this book because I talked about Lightfall in my January to be read video, assuming that I would be able to find it online somewhere and get a copy to read. However, I cannot find the audiobook or the ebook anywhere. The physical book online is going to cost me like 80 American dollars, which is even more expensive in Australian dollars because that includes the hardcover and shipping to Australia, and we're not close to anything. So I'm not going to be buying that, especially if I don't know if I'll enjoy it or not. Hopefully there is a separate Australian release date coming up later this year or even early next year, because this is such an epic sounding fantasy with vampires and werewolves and an insidious plot, so interesting politics too, and I'm just really excited about it in general because I need another dark fantasy with a political landscape and supernatural creatures. How cool does that sound? And yet I'm probably going to be waiting for it for a very long time. Please just give me the ebook. I would love to read the ebook. The other one I haven't gotten to because it's brand new is A Pirate's Life for Tea, and partly because yes, it is brand new, but at the same time I'm also a little bit concerned about it because I liked the first book. I think I gave it 3 or 3.5 stars, and that is a decent enjoyment for me. But then I think about continuing the series and I'm not super hyped about it, so that's why I'm willing to leave it to my random number generator to just choose it for my to be read pile, because I don't feel excited or disappointed by it or any kinds of trepidation for it in general. It's just kind of there. And yeah, and I also feel like because the third book is coming out this year in April, I think, it feels like it's still brand new, but it's probably not. It's just new to me on my to be read pile. So it's a cozy fantasy. If you hadn't guessed, this one is obviously also about pirates. I think it's also got a leading sapphic romance, so female-female romance. So I'm looking forward to trying it and seeing if I like it. It's probably not very long actually. The writing is very big, so it will take me like nothing to get through this, in comparison to like the Live Ship Traders, for example, which has got small font and 800 pages. So if you compare the two, this is much less intimidating, but I still am just putting it off because don't we all do that with our to be read piles? Question 5 is a book you have yet to read because you read something by the same author and you didn't like it. That author for me would be Brent Weeks, because I started the Night Angel trilogy and it just wasn't for me. It was a little bit too young. I think I got to the series too late. But then I read The Black Prism, so the Lightbringer series, and this is a 5-book epic fantasy series with a magic system based around colour. But if you use the magic system in this book, it depletes your lifespan and it turns you insane. So it's a really cool magic system. I love the world building. There is a lot of political mechanisms going on here and a lot of characters. And the first time through, I really enjoyed these. However, I did notice something, but it didn't break my immersion of the book. And that is, it can be quite contentious in terms of the male gaze and how female characters are represented in here. And I think with reading in general, everyone has their own enjoyment and their line, and that line can be very subjective. For me, this was kind of borderline and it didn't cross over into me going, actually, I'm not enjoying this anymore. I could kind of put it aside and go, okay, certain characters behave a certain way, but other characters don't. They've got a bit more agency. So I'm hoping that when I eventually reread this, that I'll enjoy it all over again, because I gave this one 5 stars. I gave other books in this series 5 stars. So I'm hoping that when I eventually revisit this series, the ratings will stay pretty much the same. Then we've got question 6, which is, what is a book that you haven't read because you're just not in the mood for it? And my mood changes day to day, week to week, which is why I do my currently reading check-ins, and I check in once and then twice at the start and the end of a week to go, look, this is what I'm reading, this is what I DNF'd, and this is what I'm reading now. So it gives you an idea as to my reading landscape, which is quite chaotic. But I've been putting this series or these series off for a little bit of time, and they're rereads to me. So it's not too bad to continue to put them off, but at the same time, if I started one recently, I probably should continue. And that would be the Dark Prophecy, so the Trials of Apollo series. This is book 2 in the Trials of Apollo, and I have this book on Audible, and then I borrowed the rest from Libby, my library. So I need to reread these audiobooks at a certain time, but I just haven't picked them up yet. And this one follows the god Apollo. He has a fall from grace, and now he's been sent to Camp Half-Blood, which is the Percy Jackson universe, and he's been sent there as a 16-year-old boy named Lester, and Lester has to go on this quest, and it's about Apollo kind of configuring who he is, because he used to be a god with godly powers. Now he's just a 16-year-old boy, and so he's got to really recalibrate the way he thinks and the way his ego works, and work together with people and recognize relationships and actually be reliable to people. And I really like seeing that shift. In the first book, he's a little bit hard to stomach because he's just ridiculous, but I still gave the first book 4 stars and enjoyed myself. I like Rick Riordan's tone. It's seriousness and balanced with a lot of humor, and it's also very fast paced, so it keeps you interested. This one I'm looking forward to reading as well, and the audiobooks are middle grade, so they're supposed to keep a kid's attention. Surely they can keep my attention. I just haven't made time to get to this. Similarly, Magnus Chase also counts on this list because, like the Trials of Apollo, I just haven't got to rereading Magnus Chase. I think I put off a Magnus Chase book every month because a new loan comes up at my library and says, hey, I'm available, and I'm like, not yet, and I send it off again into the ether. But I really need to read these too. However, they are a series that comes after the Trials of Apollo series. So once I finish the Trials of Apollo, then I can get onto this one as well. And this one is 4 books plus a novella, and the Trials of Apollo I think are 5 books. So I can do it. I've done it before multiple times. I really enjoy all of these books. They're roughly like 3.5, 4 stars and 5 stars to me. So I know that I'm going to enjoy them when I do pick them up again. I just haven't made time to do it because there have been a few new books and new releases as well that have taken my attention instead. So sorry, Rick Riordan, I will get there. The next question is, what is a book that you haven't read yet because it is humongous? And I've already talked about this book, but I'm going to bring it up again, and that's the first binding. 800 pages, super intimidating. I don't know why I find it so intimidating to read long books from my to be read pile when I thrive on long books. I love fantasy series, so I don't know why this is intimidating me so much. I think because it's just been sitting on my to be read cart and I see it every time I enter my study, and I'm like, oh yeah, this exists. I should probably read this. But I feel like when I get physical books and add them to my reading pile, I intend to read them and then I don't read them for months. And sometimes it used to be worse. I wouldn't read them for years. So at least it's a small TBR pile. It's not, over 100, 200 books anymore, which feels unmanageable to me personally. I like keeping it 20 or under, and I'm very much doing that. So I think this shouldn't be as scary as I'm making it out to be. Maybe I should try a chapter of it and then see if I like the tone and the style, because I was attracted to the kind of story it could be, and I feel like it has potential. So I don't know why I'm so scared of it. It's ridiculous at this point. Why am I scared of a book? Question 8 is, what book haven't you read yet because it was a cover buy that turned out to have poor reviews? And I got The Blood of Hercules because I thought this was a magical school, magical trial, potentially a romance subplot kind of story. And I thought it would be action-packed and a lot of fun. And it might be, but I've also seen people describe this as TikTok brain rot. And that personally terrifies me. I've also since seen it described as a why choose romance, which means that it's reverse harem. So it's multiple guys and one woman. And if it's poly, then I'm all for it. But if it's almost like a love triangle situation, I'm not interested. So I don't know how this is going to go. I think I just need to let my random number generator punish me, and then I'll try a chapter and maybe hate the writing style, or I'll force myself to read the whole thing. But I've told myself that if I don't like a book, I need to put it down, because I've had so many disappointing books that just destroy my reading momentum. And I hope this isn't one of them. I hope that I end up finding it gimmicky and enjoyable rather than gimmicky, nitpicky, and annoying. I guess future Beck will tell you what happens. Now there's only 2 more questions left, and the 10th one is just to tag some people. So if you want to do this tag, please do. I would be delighted to see your answers as well if you've got an 800-page book on your to be read pile that you are scared of. please tell me so I don't feel so alone. But question number 9 or number 8, no, I'm pretty sure it's number 9. Question number 9 is, what is the most intimidating book on your to be read pile? And I would go back and redirect you to Robin Hobb, because like I said, even though I've read all her books before, it was a long time ago. I also don't have as much time now as I did then to read. And so I feel like committing to this reread is going to take me a long time. And that's why I'm intimidated. I also know that after The Live Ship Traders, I'm not going to want to stop. So I'm going to want to continue the rest of her books. And in the realm of the Elderlings series as a whole, there are 16 books. All of them are 800 pages. No pressure whatsoever. In addition to Robin Hobb, I've had a book on my library holds list for quite a while now, only because it's quite popular and there was a TV show about it, and it's called The Three-Body Problem. And this is an epic sci-fi, and I say epic even though it probably belongs attached to fantasy more so, because this sci-fi is very complex, very sciencey, and I've heard that the descriptors of the characters aren't great, and the portrayal of the women is pretty poor. And I thought, oh, am I going to like this? I don't think I am, but I also don't want to spend any money on it, so I'm waiting for my library hold. Will I end up cancelling my library hold when I suddenly decide to change my mind on a whim? Maybe, but at the moment it's sitting on my library holds list, and it's not a short audiobook either. So if I do decide to commit to it, that is a certain amount of time that I'm putting aside. So that's probably my most intimidating, mostly because it's long, it's got a subject matter that's complex, it doesn't treat its female characters very well, or so I've heard, and it's also got a long wait, so the anticipation I've got to feel leading up to it is going to last a long time. But that is all of the most intimidating books on my to be read pile that I, for some reason, am scared of when they're just books. Try describing this to a non-bookish person and they'll just think you're crazy. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what book intimidates you the most on your to be read pile in the comments. I would love to know so that, again, I don't feel so alone. But thank you again so much for watching. I'll talk to you below and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.